Now, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has responded with tough rhetoric to Donald Trump's announcement of a 25% tariff on car imports, saying all options are on the table. Japan also says it will consider all possible steps if the tariffs do indeed go into effect next week. The European Union is promising tough countermeasures while warning the tariffs hurt consumers and have a chilling effect on the global economy.
It's cars like these, made here in Germany, that could become more expensive for American consumers, because US President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on all imported cars and car components. Trump said the move would bolster the American automotive industry, but stocks in General Motors and Ford tumbled following the announcement. German Economy Minister Robert Habeck said the EU must respond firmly, a sentiment echoed by the European Commission.
What we will do from this stage on is prepare ourselves for, as I mentioned, a proportionate, firm, well-calibrated, well-timed response. We don't want to have to respond, but at the risk of sounding like my 3-year-old son, they started it.
Germany is the 5th largest exporter of cars to the US globally and the largest in Europe. The industry is worried, but says Americans will also feel the negative impacts.
This is bad for international trade, growth, prosperity and jobs, not only in Germany and Europe, but also in the US. Tariffs on protectionism lead to higher prices globally, causing consumers to bear the brunt of inflation.
At this Mercedes car plant in Stuttgart, there was a despondent reaction from employees.
I don't know what to think. Jobs are at risk, but we have to see.
Mercedes is Mercedes. If it goes under, then I don't know.
Trump has threatened much larger tariffs if Europe joins forces with Canada to respond and impose what he calls economic harm on the US. And despite his history of dramatic U-turns on tariffs, Trump said that these are permanent while signing the levies into law.
Cecilia Malmström was the European Union Trade Commissioner during Donald Trump's first term as president. She is now at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Welcome to DW News. How vulnerable is Europe's economy to US tariffs?
Well, obviously, this is not good for the European economy. It's not good for the American economy. It's not good for the global economy. Tariffs are taxes, and they are paid by consumers, and they very often lead to inflation, higher prices, and they affect the economy in a negative way. US is our most important trading partner, so obviously Europe will be affected because it's not only cars, it's also car parts. And then next week there will be a new package coming, possibly involving basically everything, goods that we export. So it's very bad, this is not what we wanted. The European Commission has been trying to reach out to see is there anything we can talk about, is there a positive agenda? And theoretically, of course, there is. But now it looks as there will be a lot of tariffs coming next week as well.
And at what point do all the countermeasures, the tit-for-tat tariffs, descend into a full-blown trade war? And how big is the risk of that happening? Some would argue we're already in a trade war.
Well, with the terrible war going on in Ukraine, I think we should be careful using the term war here, but it's definitely tensions and a very hard conflict that risks to escalate. So the European Commission has announced that they will do countermeasures. The old tariffs from the last time there were tariffs on steel and aluminium, but also have been engaging with stakeholders to produce a longer possible list. So that might enter into force next week or in the coming weeks, depending on what happens and the discussions internally in the EU as well. The EU has also joined Canada recently to put the measure, the steel and aluminium tariffs to the WTO, which is the correct thing to do. Not that it will have a concrete effect right now, but it's the right thing to do. And we are very sorry, of course, that this is happening, because potentially EU and US are are very good trade partners. There's a lot of jobs created by German and European firms in the US, and this risks really harming our relations.
Just coming back to the point of the countermeasures, the tit for tat, can Europe win a tariff war with the United States?
Well, that remains to be seen how long this is working. But at the same time, the EU is, of course, broadening its network. It has the biggest network of all countries in the world with a lot of free trade agreements with other partners. It is now speeding up that process to reach out to other countries of the world, in Latin America, in Mexico, in Asia, in Africa, even with India, to reduce its dependence of the US and to broaden the trade. But of course, we are very dependent on the US. But the US is also very dependent on us. So at some point, America will also realize that this harms their consumers, their workers, their economy. So it cannot go on forever.
Donald Trump warned the European Union and Canada against working together to oppose his tariffs. What do you make of that?
Well, the European Union works with whomever it wants to work, of course, and Canada is a close friend and ally. As I said, we have just joined them in the WTO. We have a trade agreement with Canada, which is very advanced and has led to a lot of advantages economically for both partners. It's a friend also in the discussions on how to support Ukraine. So of course, we will work with Canada. Whether there will be joint countermeasures with Canada and other allies remains to be seen. But of course, a lot of countries all over the world who are allies to Europe, obviously, but also to the US, are talking to each other and see what possibly can be done on a national basis and what can be done together. I think these discussions have not really landed yet.
All right, that is Cecilia Malmström talking to us there. We appreciate you speaking to DW News.
Thank you very much.